Hello there, I'm Jimmy Vegas and this is how to create a Wolfenstein 3D FPS clone in Unity, and welcome to episode 5. So in this tutorial we're going to take a look at another way of animating, so i.e. we're going to have two animations attached to one object. We're going to look at coroutines in C# scripting, and we'll also look at adding in some sound effects. So let's start with animation. So we'll deal with animation simply because we dealt with it last time, and the way the coding works, well, we can kind of flow on nicely from that. So if we go to our door and go to animation, remember we created that first animation, and by the 60th frame, which is 1 second, we have that placement. So it's a case of remembering whereabouts we are. Now whenever we move, if we go to our animation that is, and type in 60 to get to our 60th frame, all we've actually moved is the X position. So we have to remember that minus 13.93. So we can copy that figure right there. And if we go back to the first frame, we just have to remember minus 10. So we need to do the complete inverse of what we've done here. So if we press record, if we press the little drop down menu below record, my apologies, and then click create new clip, and we'll go into the animations folder and we'll have door close, and then click the record animation. So we need to set the first keyframe position, paste that number, so minus 13.93. So whatever it was on the final frame of the animation of the previous one, this is the first frame of the animation on our new one. So then by 60th frame we set it back to minus 10. Press the record button once again and back to the project view, and if we go to our animator we should have door close now there in our animation state. So I'm going to move it there and move this here to keep everything nicely aligned. So the entry point is new state, so that is basically what we created was nothing, wasn't it? So no movement on the door whatsoever, and then we can either do close or open, whichever one we choose. So we just keep that in mind. So that is a way of adding in extra animations to a single object. So one object can contain multiple animations. It's all about that controller. So if we go to our animations, remember it's this door 001 controller that holds these animations. And basically we just need to make it roughly the same. So door close now needs to be unticked on loop time because we don't want it repeating. It only happens once. So what do we do next? Well, if we go to our scripts folder and open that script again, you may already have it open, but if not, just reopen it in Visual Studio, and we're going to use something called coroutines now. A coroutine is a way of setting up another method within the script that can basically contain a waiting period. So for example, we want this to trigger, and then after, let's say, 5 seconds, the door will close of its own accord, and that can be done via a coroutine, but I'll show you this as we go along. We're also going to add in that sound effect for the door opening as well. So public audio source, remember we do public simply because we want it to appear in the inspector panel. We have audio source because that is the type of variable. We'll deal with audio source a little later on this tutorial because, well, we're going to have to anyway if we want the sound effect. But that's the type, so then the name. And we'll have this as door FX. So FX short for effects, basically the word effects. And then semicolon. So what we do here is we slowly build upon this script to create that coroutine. And we do that by going beneath that close curly bracket, because remember this close curly bracket completes this method, the onTrigger enter one, and instead of typing void for this one we type I enumerator like so, and it should turn light blue. Now we can call this anything we want, and this can be close door because that's exactly what it's going to do. So then open close bracket and open curly bracket and hit return. Now if, like me, you're using Visual Studio, you'll notice that this is now highlighted red, meaning there's something wrong. The reason this is happening is because whenever we use iEnumerator, we always have to have, in this case, a waiting period. And we can do that by going yield, which means, or wait, I guess, return new. So we're returning a new amount of time to yield, which is going to be wait 4 seconds, and in brackets, the number of seconds that we want to wait before we perform the next line of code. So let's have 5 seconds like we discussed earlier. Close bracket and semicolon. And now everything should look just right. There's no red underlining saying it looks wrong, which is fine. So after 5 seconds, what we want to do is we want the door to then close. So we can use a similar line to what we have here. So we can type the door, referencing the actual door itself, and then get component, and it's going to be Animator, just like the previous one, open close bracket, dot play, and remember capitalization is always important, and in brackets and quotes the name of the animation that we have just created, in this case close door, and semicolon at the end. So what do we do now? We want the sound to play when we open and when we close the door. So what we do, void on trigger enter. After the open curly bracket, we just do door effects dot play, open close bracket, semicolon, and it's as simple as that. And that same line of code can be used down here in the coroutine. So we copy that and place it down here. Now, although we have this coroutine in place, it won't actually start. The reason being is because we never call it from anywhere within the script. So we need to have inside void on trigger enter a way of calling this coroutine. And we can do that by typing start coroutine, and in brackets the name of that I enumerated down there, which is close door, open close bracket, and then semicolon. So your script should look like this at this point. If you have any problems at all, I will actually put this updated script on the website as well, so you can download it for free if you want to. So let's save that script now and think, what else can we do? Well, if we actually trigger this and then come out of the trigger and then re-trigger it again, then we have a problem because it will continually keep trying to re-trigger itself. So we have to come up with a way of stopping this from occurring. So before we start the coroutine, we need to turn off the box collider. So the reason we turn off the box collider, if we go back to Unity and click on the cube, which was the trigger, you'll notice here, remember when we ticked is trigger in box collider? Well, we want to turn off the box collider completely and then turn it back on again at a later point. So for that to work, we need to type this. So what this does is it references the object this script is attached to. So this dot get component in spiky brackets box collider, and then open close bracket dot enabled equals false. So what's happening here is it's referencing whatever object it's attached to. It's getting the component called box collider and it is turning it off because the enabled is going to be false. So naturally the inverse of that would be copying that line of code and going down here, pasting and typing true instead of false, and then save the script. So now let's quickly run through this script because it's expanded quite a lot considering the last time we just had a couple of lines. We have both our variables, the door and the sound effect. We play the sound effect when we enter the trigger, and we also play the animation to open it, and we also turn off the collider, and then we also start the coroutine, which then places it in a wait state, which is down here. After 5 seconds, we play the sound again, and then we play the second animation we created, and we turn back on the box collider so we can reopen it if we need to. So let's go back into Unity, and basically we should see this update here. So you can see that this new variable that we've created is right there. So we need to add in that sound effect. Let's go down here to our assets, right click, create folder, and let's call this one, let's just call it audio. And within here, I'm going to create another subfolder and just call it effects, because we're going to have different types of audio, aren't we? So we may as well keep everything neat and tidy in here. So within this folder, I'm going to drag and drop this door slide sound, which you can get on the website for free, as with everything. And now what we need to do is we need to attach this sound to the scene where we're able to hear it. So because the camera is always going to be attached to our first person controller, we need the sound to be attached to that. So if we click the arrow on FPS controller and then right click and click on create empty, we will create an empty game object. And this is basically an object in the scene that contains absolutely nothing, only a transform component. And that transform component just dictates where it is in the scene, but it makes little difference at this point. So let's right click and rename and call this same as the audio, door slide. And then we can drag and drop this audio file onto door slide over here. And it will automatically add in that component over here. Now there's quite a bit to it, but the only thing we really need to worry about at this point is making sure play on awake is unticked and loop is also unticked. So it should look like this at this point. We'll deal with more with audio source as we get further into development, because we'll be dealing more with it when we create music and ambience and whatever else within the game. So now all we need to do is go back to our trigger, which I'm actually going to right click and rename and just call it first door trigger. And then I'm going to drag and drop door slide sound onto the door effects variable over here. And now I'm going to save my scene. Best to as often as you can, just in case, and let's press play. So if we walk over here now, we should be able to activate this door with a sound, and now after a couple of seconds it should close. Okay, so it looks like it hasn't closed correctly, so the animation isn't playing as it should. So let's check why. Now, if we go to our animation and go to the door itself, which I forgot where it is, hang on. Let's go back to our scene, click on the door, door 001, animation. So let's press that. Let's go to frame 60. So frame 60 is still set as, oh, sorry, we're on door open, aren't we? Let's go to door close right there. So frame, let's press record. Frame 60 should be closed, and it is. So frame 0 should be completely open, and it is. So let's take a look at why this isn't working. Let's press play. So the animation is working as expected. However, it's not working down here. So animation is called door close. We've put close door. There we go. Door, close, and save. So sometimes you just have to make sure you do use the correct terms. And that was a great little introduction as to errors within scripting. And it does happen more than you would think. So given our silly error, or my silly error there, of door close instead of, closed door instead of door close, I should say, then fingers crossed now, our scene should work as intended. Okay, so door opened. Let's back off and let's see what happens. Perfect. And we should be able to do that again. And we should be able to repeatedly enter the trigger and nothing happen. And it does. And back in. Excellent. And let's take a look. So, it's worth pointing out right here, we're not able to get back through this door because the trigger that we need to get through it is actually on the other side. So we would not be able to get back through. But that's something we'll deal with at a later date. So, guys, what you need to do here is build what we've done here. And if you want to, feel free to add the trigger over the other side, build more doors, and just build up your game. So next tutorial is going to be all about the weapons and picking them up and using them. So until that next tutorial, guys, thank you very much for watching.